The public sector affects every aspect of life in the UK. We are PSE. This podcast will bring you exclusive news, interviews and insights from the people responsible for building and shaping the country's future.
We are the PSE team. I'm Ilsa.
I'm Emily.
And I'm Matt.
And each episode we will be joined by key figures within the public sector, covering everything from the environment to the economy.
This podcast is brought to you by Evo North, uniting leaders from the public and private sector to collaborate, share exciting innovations and build a stronger Northern Powerhouse together.
So on the show today, your hosts are me, Ilsa and Emily.
Hi.
And our guest we're joined by today is CEO of Midas, Tim Newns. Welcome, Tim.
Hi, nice to meet you.
So can you tell anybody listening who might not know exactly what Midas does, what you're about?
So Midas is the inward investment agency for Greater Manchester, so our role is to attract investment into the city region basically. That's in multiple forms. That generally is about businesses setting up offices or industrial manufacturing units here, but also occasionally it's about financial investment into the city as well, which might go into regeneration or housing or some of those factors as well. So anything that sort of improves Greater Manchester, particularly in terms of people and jobs, is what we're about really.
Are you from Greater Manchester?
I am, yeah, from Prestwich originally, so
Very nice.
Bury's finest towns.
Nice. And how long have you been in this role?
I've been in this role for 8 years now.
Wow.
8.5 years, yeah.
And so how specifically does Midas deliver value to the Greater Manchester economy?
So we're very, very proactive in what we do. So we have, we're essentially a Greater Manchester sales team in many ways. Mm-hmm. So we do a lot of work understanding what makes Manchester tick, Greater Manchester tick, where our real strengths are, international strengths, of that kind of calibre. And then we look at where global demand is in terms of business as well. So, where are the hot spots, what's growing rapidly, and therefore where's the opportunity between Manchester strengths and that global growth for us to sort of come together so that we can ultimately create jobs, create growth on a local level here. So once we've done that, matching those together, we might take something at the moment, for example, like cybersecurity, where we know there's going to be considerable growth because of GCHQ coming in and the companies that are already coming in around them. And we'll look to target who are the big existing cybersecurity companies globally or the high growth companies globally, and then we go out and we approach them basically. Mm-hmm. And that's about getting them here, opening offices, or opening wider facilities that create jobs. There's the straight sort of return on attracting companies here, which creates business rates, and there's, I think, the net value of what we create is about £5 million a year on £1 million worth of public sector money. So there's a straight 5-to-1 return on that. There's obviously the jobs, and the jobs really is where we see the big impact. So again, what we do is we have a sort of gross value, which is almost £300 million.
Wow.
And then we apply certain filters to that, which says what might have happened anyway, where have we really sort of had impact versus maybe supported a company that was on the journey already.
Yeah.
So once we sort of take that out and have a net figure, that's still about £190 million basically.
So it's significant.
It is, and we spend £2 million to get to that stage. So when you look at what's happening across the city region, these are really high value activities really in terms of economic impact. Again, over the last sort of 3 years, we've created over 12,000 jobs from the work we've done, and over 15,000 in all when you include what we safeguard as well, because again, there are times when companies might, particularly at the moment with uncertainty in the economy, big international companies are thinking about where they base themselves, whether it's whether they want to be in mainland Europe versus UK, and whatever your view on sort of Brexit, that's reality really at the moment. These companies are thinking about those things. So part of our job as well as creating new is also protecting existing jobs,
of course,
and stopping those moving away from Greater Manchester. So that sort of combination of 12,000 new, but also another 3,000 or 4,000 jobs that we've sort of safeguarded, as we call it, retained here.
And going on from that then, how does Midas impact the Northern Powerhouse specifically?
A couple of different ways, I suppose. I mean, some of the work we do, a successful Manchester is a successful North. Mm-hmm. So I think that's the first thing to say. The more more we can highlight opportunities in the north through Manchester, the more other cities like Leeds, Liverpool, Newcastle, Sheffield will benefit as well. And I think, draw more limelight as well.
Yeah.
I think it's fair to say brand-wise, Manchester is one of the strongest brands in the UK after London.
Yeah.
Liverpool also has a strong brand as well because of historic reasons of music, football, etc. as well. So they're probably the two strongest city brands. I'm sure Leeds and Newcastle and Sheffield will probably beg.
She's a Leeds fan as well.
Right, there we go. But certainly from the research we've done, that's proven really that they are the stronger brand. So again, as I say, the stronger we can make that, the stronger I think the north becomes, because it just brings more exposure to those opportunities across the north. But also we're heavily involved in the northern economy as well, in terms of working with our opposite numbers in those places, those other cities. We work together regularly on certain projects, on trade missions. So that's actually taking companies out from Greater Manchester to some of the international markets as well, where we're trying to use them as ambassadors, as well as sort of seeking to get trade opportunities for them as well. So we work together on those agendas. We have multiple. In fact, last month we had a Northern Powerhouse trade mission to India, for example. There's one going out in January that's being led by us, or by the North West, should I say, going out to one of the big consumer electronics shows in January. So, there's constant work being done between us all. And you might have also read the Manifesto of the North as well, which came out a couple of months ago. Mm-hmm. And again, we've been heavily involved in the trade and investment element of that, with colleagues as well from across the north as well. So, we're very much working together to see how we can, what our strengths are, what our weaknesses are as well, where we need to fill those gaps, and really drawing on best practice across what we all do to try and make the north better, really.
Fabulous.
And how does Midas benefit public services across the region?
Yeah, again, probably a few different ways, really. So local authorities need to find work for their residents, and they also need to gain revenue from business rates. So there's a combination of those factors, really. And also business investment, whether it be into regeneration, which could go into big town centre projects, for example, is a key catalyst really for urban regeneration across those areas. So whether we are hopefully attracting jobs into that area, which obviously has a direct impact then on the area, that creates business rates, and there's about £8 million in additional business rates that we've created over the last couple of years for local authorities. So there's a direct revenue gain for them, if you like. Large employment sites to generate. So you can look at Bolton, for example, Logistics North, which is one of their big industrial development sites. There's 4,000 or 5,000 jobs been created on that site over the last 5 years. In fact, probably the last 3 years, in fact. Which is huge revenue gain for Bolton in terms of business rates, but also, those jobs are absolutely incredibly important for that local economy.
Yeah.
So a mixture of those different things, but also even jobs that come into central areas like central Manchester and Salford, for example. Over 70% of those jobs are actually taken by people who live outside Manchester and Salford. So the residents of Greater Manchester still benefit from those jobs that are created centrally, as opposed to just directly in their local areas. And then the final sort of contribution probably that we make to local authorities, or to local government and national government, we actually work on public sector relocation as well.
Okay.
So, we've very much been supporting Manchester City Council on the GCHQ relocation, for example, but over time, we've relocated a number of central government departments here as well. So the public sector itself is also an engine for growth, not just by creating sort of bigger local authorities, I don't mean that, but actually how we spread government across the UK more. BBC, obviously a very good example of that.
Yeah.
But there are many other government departments that either we've already relocated in the past or could still relocate in the future, that we're working very heavily on at the moment, that aligns to the local industrial strategy that was created last year, or during the year this year. So, departments that are linked to the Department of Health, sport, DCMS, digital, creative media, those departments where we want to see more and more of their functions actually outside London and the southeast, and in places like Manchester and the north.
So what about the average Mancunian? You know, they might not necessarily know who you are or necessarily know what work you specifically have done. What benefits do they see from the work that you do?
I think it's difficult. I mean, obviously, when there's big projects that come out, occasionally the press goes out and people see that in the business section, but not everyone reads the business section for a start.
Yeah.
So I think really for them, where they'll notice us most is probably some of the new brands that come into Greater Manchester, creating new jobs. So if you look over the last sort of 6 to 12 months, people like BAE Systems, Fitch Ratings, expansions from people like QIAGEN, all of these have been creating hundreds and hundreds of new jobs.
Yeah.
So I think where you see it is where you see an influx of jobs advertised really in and around the city, and new brands that haven't been in this area before. So Freshfields is another good example of a very high caliber brand that came in sort of 3 years ago, or Amazon on the digital side, AWS, that are creating 600 jobs. You know, these are new brands that people haven't necessarily seen in and around Greater Manchester before, creating hundreds of jobs that are going out there in the market. So they wouldn't necessarily know that it's us sort of in the background behind some of those things, or working to secure some of those things, but I think they would see the direct result of them, certainly.
Definitely. And what would you say to people who would argue that, you know, international investment is making things harder for people from Manchester?
Yeah, I mean, often I think other cities have sort of made that comment more regularly than Greater Manchester has, really. And we did a lot of research just over 10 years ago, something called the Manchester Independent Economic Review, and it looked at foreign direct investment and its impact on the local area and local industry in particular, whether it essentially displaced it or complemented it. And it showed quite clearly that actually it was a driver for growth and complemented it rather than cannibalised it, if you like. And the reasons for that is that essentially foreign companies invest outside their country of origin, generally because they're successful. Yeah. So generally it's the better companies from places that will invest outside their countries and into places like the UK. So you're already getting quite a dynamic company joining the ecosystem here, if you like. So their use of technology is generally better. They're more innovative. They pay higher generally. They employ more people because they're successful, and that spills over onto local businesses. So they get people who go and work for those companies, but then come back.
I've never thought about that. No.
Better trained, having used different ideas, different technologies from different places. So you see that technology transfer happening. So essentially, it gives a boost to the local area. That bit of competition actually improves the local companies. Yeah. Actually makes them more globally resilient.
More competitive.
Exactly. And also the other thing is it attracts more concentration to the area of a certain discipline. So, you know, I know GCHQ is a sort of good and bad example because it's a sort of domestic government agency, if you like, rather than foreign direct investment. But that will create a new nucleus of expertise around cybersecurity here in Greater Manchester, complementing companies that are already here, like NCC Group, who are, you know, one of the UK's leading cyber consultancy firms that we're really lucky to have headquartered here. But that will enhance what they do here because they may have been a bit of a lonely voice maybe in the city before, you know, creating their own talent very much in isolation. Whereas now they're going to have GCHQ creating that talent, bringing that attention to the city. They've already attracted people like Raytheon, like BAE Systems, like Northern Powerhouse, big international cybersecurity firms that are going to be creating more onus on this area as a cyber specialist area, which will probably help NCC in terms of their exposure, their global profile, certainly in terms of talent creation, because there's going to be multiple people now creating and training talent that they can then feed off. So they're not doing all that on their own anymore. So generally, we found that it is really enhanced the local community here rather than taking it out. And you look at some of the big digital companies that have grown, we have not seen the kind of scale of growth from our businesses over the last 20 years that we have over the last 5. Yeah. Generally, they've capped out at maybe 50, 100 million and either sold out, which is absolutely their right to do that, or just sustain that sort of level. Whereas over the last 5 years, in particular, we've seen people like AO.com, the Hut Group, Boohoo,
Social Chain,
exactly. And these guys are globally significant now. Turning over in excess of £1 billion worth of revenue, and that is absolutely unheralded here.
Yeah.
In terms of businesses of that scale. And I absolutely believe the sort of international nature of the city, in terms of our ability, the credibility I think it affords some of those businesses as well when they're attracting funding, when they're going through their growth rounds of funding and those types of things. But also, it's a credible place to trade from. Manchester Airport, key facilitator in getting these companies in and around the world as well, connecting us to key places. All those factors are, I think, really, really complementary to the indigenous businesses that we have here and their global growth.
Well, we were going to ask what you would say to any companies looking to move to Manchester, but you've answered
kind
that.
of already touched on it. Yeah, definitely.
Well, I think the big thing is talent, really.
Yeah.
And not just the talent that exists on the doorstep, which is pretty significant. And again, you don't just talk about talent that exists in Greater Manchester. We feed from Liverpool, from Leeds, from all of the areas around those, Lancashire, Cheshire, etc.
Mm-hmm.
We're very lucky that we're centrally placed amongst all those other cities and towns. So although we've got 3 million population or just under in Greater Manchester, we have a population in excess of 13 million within 50 miles of here, which puts us really equivalent with any major city in Europe in terms of the sheer volume of people we can access within that geographical range.
Yeah, it's quite sprawling, isn't it?
It really is. And so with the transport improvements that are scheduled with Northern Rail, Northern Powerhouse Rail, then our ability to get that volume of people, so it's a workforce in excess of 7 million people, the ability to get those people into work within 35 to 45 minutes in and around Greater Manchester is a globally competitive asset really for Greater Manchester. And at the moment, companies and growing companies want people. It's all about people. So what's on the doorstep is really important, but I think Greater Manchester's growing I suppose profile as a place to live and a place to work, and having the careers that people can actually see a full career path rather than I'll just go and work there for 3 or 4 years and then I'll have to go to London or New York, or the level of roles, and this is certainly part of what we've been able to do, is attract a higher level of role to the city that probably wasn't there before. So UK chief execs and MDs, European, Middle East and Asia heads of departments or chief executives, and so people can see a full career here, which means that we attract more people and they stay here as well. So it's not just about that on the doorstep. We're a net importer, of talent on a major scale. So people leaving London, we are the second most common destination for them to come to after New York.
Wow, really?
And above places like Paris and Frankfurt.
That's crazy, that.
It's really interesting, actually. Yeah, really interesting when you look at it in those migration patterns. And so companies, as I say, whereas they might see what's going on the ground and think, right, we've got X million people, but then they see this ability to attract people from anywhere in the world as well, not just the UK, as a massive asset. And that's really helping us drive, and that quality of life, that attractiveness to millennials and that age group of people who are going to grow businesses of the future, critical factor. So that is playing very positively for us at the moment.
What has been, would you say, the most successful project that you've been a part of today, or you've enjoyed working on the most?
Yeah, it's really difficult actually, because it's such a diverse range of projects to get to work on. I said I've been in this role for 8.5 years. I've actually been at Midas for 15.
Oh wow!
And it's a really difficult organisation to leave, if I'm honest, in terms of that eclectic mix of experiences. Not all business related, some of which we talked earlier about working with politicians, like obviously with having the mayor here now, and local authority leaders over the years as well, like Sir Richard Leese and sort of senior civil servants like Sir Howard Bernstein and others, really inspiring people to work with. So there's that side, but the breadth of different projects that we get to work on is incredible. So my first project was Bank of New York Mellon, who now employ between 1,500 and 1,800 people. And I actually met their current global chief exec last night, and sort of to go over the last 15 years and what next. And it's just brilliant to still, even after all that time, it's a sort of gift that keeps on giving almost, really, projects like that. And you can go back over so many different projects that are in that vein. I think more recently, some of the most interesting projects that we've worked on, it's great to have people at Amazon here, because just the sheer brand presence that then gives a signal to industry that says, we're here, why aren't you here?
Yeah, exactly.
So those things are really exciting, more from a marketing profile
It's
perspective.
a statement, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. But then, the last couple of years or so, another project again, which, we're only a sort of part of the overall team that secured it, very much sort of in partnership with Health Innovation Manchester, University of Manchester and the City Council as well, and MSP. It's QIAGEN, which is a genomics orientated diagnostics company. So we have Devolved Health here now in Greater Manchester, and we're constantly looking for health innovation to come in and change the way we actually deliver healthcare.
Yeah.
And change health outcomes for Greater Manchester people. That's the important thing. We know the disparity between rich and poor here is quite stark in terms of the sort of expected age or living age that people will reach in different parts of the city region. So ways in which we can actually affect that obviously mean a lot to us, our team. They're all generally Greater Manchester residents, we're part of the population ourselves. So QIAGEN have come in to create a global centre for genomics here and diagnostics around genomics, which means that the technology they'll be developing and testing first here will be identifying disease at an earlier stage, much earlier stage than previously possible. So the impact that can make from its technological perspective in terms of where the city region wants to go is incredible. But at the same time, the other benefits of it, it's going to overall probably, along with some of the other functions that were here already, create over 800 jobs, all of which are high value jobs, which are on offer then for local residents. They're building a new building for it, so it's part of the regeneration story on the Oxford corridor. And just generally, it's multifaceted benefit really for Greater Manchester, both in terms of, as I say, the more standard benefits like jobs and regeneration, but more importantly, in a way, the health benefits that will bring from the technology that will be created here.
And when will this project be completed?
So, it's live now. They launched earlier this year, in April this year, under the brand. So there's a dual sort of investment. Part of it is by QIAGEN itself, and part of it is a new company that they've created as joint partners with QIAGEN, the University of Health Innovation Manchester and the City Council as well, called APIS, which is Latin for bee.
Okay.
So obviously, in the true sort of bee spirit.
That's nice.
So, and that will be doing some of the really, APIS will be doing some of the really cutting edge advanced research. But those types of things you need a partnership.
Yeah.
Because there's such high risk around new technologies, and a company alone couldn't necessarily spend all its cash developing that at risk. So that's why there is a partnership there between the health system and the university, so that is a joint project, and that really epitomises how Greater Manchester works. Well, we're very partnership orientated.
Yeah, working together.
Yeah, we're very lucky as Midas to have great partners as well, from the private sector to the public sector. Some of them contribute financially to us in terms of the private sector as well as the public sector, but more to the point, they just help.
Yeah. Well, looking ahead then, as we approach 2020, what projects do you have in line for the next 12 months? Or what would you like to see happen?
Yeah.
Or can you not tell us?
It's difficult to tell you details of what actually may happen, but I think what we'll see is a continuing influx of digital jobs.
Yeah.
So we've seen the number of jobs created in sort of technology more than double over the last couple of years. So I think out of the 4,500 jobs we created last year, over 2,000 were tech jobs.
Wow.
And whatever sector we're working in at the moment, whether it's financial services, whether it's healthcare, whether it's manufacturing, digital is still the driving force behind that.
Yeah.
So we worked with Jaguar Land Rover last year to bring them here, but as a technology office.
Yeah.
Not building cars here, they're doing all the tech design and research around autonomous vehicles, around their internal sort of essentially a car now is just one big computer, so that's what they're doing here really. But likewise, digital health is going to be a big part of what we are aiming at next year, and likewise, in financial services, tech is driving that completely.
Yeah.
So fintech, payments, all those different things which then support e-commerce and all the other things that are really booming here. So I think we will likely see thousands of tech jobs coming in over the next couple of years, certainly. But the exciting things, I think, are some of the other things that the city region is putting forward. So, health is obviously a critical part of what we want to do. So again, how we can attract more projects like CarGen.
Yeah.
We're working on at the moment. And there's some really, really interesting companies that are at the cutting edge of different types of technologies that we'd love to land over the next year or two. But they are really difficult projects, to actually land because of the whole risk sharing and things like that. And then on the low carbon side as well, I think with the mayor setting the target 2038 for carbon neutrality, then we've got to be part of that solution to be attracting the companies that can help us on that journey.
Definitely.
And we're already talking to sort of electric vehicle manufacturers and those types of guys, so that as well as potentially bringing jobs here in terms of manufacturing jobs here, actually the products they're making will potentially help us change the low carbon view of Greater Manchester as well.
Fabulous.
And just to wrap things up, we're going to play a little game now, slightly less serious and business element to what we've been talking about this morning. But,
although it still has a business theme, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
So what we've done is we've taken headlines from actually Midas's website, and we've removed one word, and your job is to tell us the missing word.
So the first one is blank. Statue unveiled in Manchester commemorating 150th year of his birth.
Ask Andy, I know that one, yeah.
Very good. Okay, second one. Manchester Airport secures landmark link to blank.
Shanghai.
Very good.
Okay.
Too easy for you.
Third one. University of blank signs partnership with Indian Hospitals Group as part of GM Emerald trade mission.
No, we did two actually. So it's either Bolton or Salford, but I'm going to go Bolton on that one.
Yeah.
Very good. Okay, mayoral India mission secures 600 job pipeline worth blank to Greater Manchester's economy.
Oh, that's a more difficult one actually. I'm going to go 40 million.
Whoa, 45 million. We'll give you that one.
Yeah,
very
that was
impressive.
Very close, that one, yeah. And the last one, Manchester has been named the #1 UK city for blank.
Millennials? We have been named that.
You can have that one then, but the headline is Manchester's been named the #1 UK city for IT careers.
Ah, right, okay.
Which is what we were just talking about.
Yeah,
and
it's
you were
what
saying.
we probably said anyway.
That one's probably a good one to get wrong, because we can say that this Manchester's #1 for so
many things
at
the moment that it could have been multiple answers. So
yeah.
It's a really positive
maybe
one.
a little bit mean that last one.
But you did very well, and thank you so much for coming on to talk to us today. I honestly had no idea how far-reaching the work that you do is, and as we talked about earlier, we've got Reese from the Manchester China Forum coming on next week.
Yeah.
So that'll be a really nice way to link in with the work that you're all doing. So thank you so much for coming in.
Pleasure.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
This podcast is brought to you by Evo North, uniting leaders from the public and private sector to collaborate, share exciting innovations, and build a stronger Northern Powerhouse together.
Join in the conversation using #WeArePSE or send us an email using the form on our website and let us know the questions you want answering.
If you enjoyed today's podcast and discussions, don't forget to like and subscribe or give us a rating on whatever streaming service you're using. Thanks for listening. See you next time.